Man, so anything else you want to get off your chest from your short-term
Pull out
rental
the
days?
notes app, man. What's
This
the?
past January, I got a phone call from the Atlanta Police Department to ask,
He's like, I could go all day. Yes, there's plenty.
to
What
ask for
happened?
access to one of our apartments that the unit downstairs had complained of.
Weed smoke.
No, potentially a dead body upstairs.
What? Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Once Upon A Bnb. This is Maha.
And this is Ian, and we have our guest.
Zach. We don't have to say your last name. I don't know if you,
Elfenbein, but we'll get
Elfenbein.
it. It's tough. It's tough.
Elfenbein. I mean, my
Yeah.
last name is Amercani. Nobody ever gets that,
that
right
right?
either. Yeah.
Is there a hidden H in there somewhere?
No.
Oh, okay.
Amircani. Arabic for American.
I'd have been eliminated in that spelling bee pretty quickly.
I'm not going to start with yours.
And your Ian, what's your
Grady like the hospital is what I say at the end of all voicemails.
What a blessing
Yeah.
for you. You're filling out Scantrons like that. You were able to get through everything. Just, Elfenbein's a little bit tougher. But yeah, thank you for having me.
So where are you from originally? You're not from here, right?
No, so I'm originally from Miami, Florida.
Okay.
By way of the University of Florida. Went to school there, was studying.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was
Go
barking
Dogs.
at you.
We both
That's
went to
usually-
Georgia.
That's usually a big part of it. I was there studying. I was on my way to law school, actually. Had to
really?
get an internship as a senior and was able to get an internship with the basketball team.
Lucky.
Wait, when
every
did
like.
because UF has had some glory days recently. So
Yeah. So look, I appreciate if you think that I'm that old, but I was there in 2012, 13, and 14.
when
and
did
15.
Horford and
That was 2006 and 7.
okay,
and,
I'm
Yeah,
that
we're
old.
the old
yeah,
ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
and
I'm
so
sorry.
I was not there for that. I only got to see them during the lockout when they came back to Florida.
Nice.
But no, the most recent Final Four in 2014, I was fortunate enough to be on
Okay,
staff there and sit there as the University of Connecticut ended our 30-game win streak in Dallas, Texas, in Arlington, in AT&T Jerry
We can
World.
relate as Bulldog fans.
Yeah,
We ended a 29-game
sure.
win streak.
But what we can definitely relate to is, how much of like love and passion goes into like your team and
Yeah.
and the people you meet who also share that fandom. But what's underrated is like the understanding of what SEC sports means to other people.
Yeah.
Being a Gator, being a Bulldog, that's something at least here in Atlanta, everyone seems to at least get it. We
Yeah.
get it. We haven't been great for a couple of years in football, but that's
Maybe a little more than a couple.
that's a different story.
when I was in college, it was
Yeah.
urban time. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, but that was some of the
Tebow
best
time.
teams that money could buy back then, and we did that better than anyone else. And you have the wins to show for it, but you guys are
We had
catching up.
old high morals Rick at the time.
and everything changes. Yeah, and
Yeah.
everyone moves on.
we made a
but yeah.
smart move.
Yeah, they moved up here to actually be an athletic director.
I was curious of how the time with the basketball team led you away from law.
Yeah. So when I was interning, I was lucky enough to follow some great advice, which was show up, shut up, and keep up. And I outlasted some other interns and outlasted some other lower staff members who, you're working for free. You're working long hours, doing whatever you can to get onto the coaching staff. But me, I'd gotten into law school. I was there trying to learn and get an experience and ended up being in the right place, the right time. I got an opportunity to be on the staff as a grad assistant and decided with that scholarship, I was not going to go to law school
Yeah.
and see how that went. And I did
Yeah.
that for 2 years as a grad student, 1 year on the staff. And then my boss left for Oklahoma City to become the coach of the NBA team there, the Thunder.
Wait, who's your boss?
Billy Donovan.
Dope, dude.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so
I
he
guess I
was,
should-
he
I don't
was as
actually
good
know
a
who that
boss
is, but
as...
sounds cool.
Yeah, and the guys on that coaching tree, actually, if you're a basketball fan or not, I don't know. He left
Casual,
for the
but-
he left for the Thunder. The Thunder are really great right now. They were the number 1 overall seed. They're coached by a guy by the name of Mark Dagnall. Mark Dagnall, 10 years ago, was the grad assistant who helped me get into grad school there. He wrote my letter of recommendation, and I
Really?
still, so he just won the Coach of the Year award
Yeah.
as an NBA coach.
Like, wasn't that the youngest team in the league? or
Yeah,
something like that?
and so he was pretty accomplished. But at that time, he wrote a pretty sarcastic, letter of like, you should let this guy in. He was going to go to law school, and now he wants to be a basketball coach. He'd be, an asset, and
Yeah.
still to this day, it's like one of my favorite stories to tell. Basketball leads you in a lot of different places. I got an opportunity to come here to Atlanta to work as an athletic director. Had some family here at the time. And
What were you athletically directing?
so in Dunwoody, actually, there is a pretty large facility there called the Marcus Jewish Community Center of Atlanta.
Okay.
Is
that the one on Tilly Mill?
That's right.
Yeah,
And so,
JCC.
And so
Literally, I can walk there from my parents' house.
So overarching that is, at the time, I think it was like 15 to 20,000 kids were playing sports through there.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And so it was a pretty big, I mean, if you've seen the campus, it's 60 acres there, you know, with gyms and all this stuff. It's wonderful. It's a really great place in Dunwoody. Got my start there working with kids in basketball and whatnot. Fast forward 5 years, I'd moved my way up. The pandemic hit. And nonprofits are not really built to hold on during those times of need where money's not coming in. And so when we had to lay off, you know, or furlough or however you want to term a lot of the people, after that, it was pretty easy to become a capitalist after that. And I was big into fundraising. I don't know if you guys have ever had to do anything like that, but fundraising is similar to raising capital. And so when I realized that real estate was an avenue that I could take, and I knew people in it. I took that fundraising and athletic director and building a team kind of mentality and brought it to real estate.
That's awesome.
And that was about 3.5 years ago.
Okay.
And so far, so good. And I do a lot within that market, whether it's being a realtor, running an investment fund, those types of things.
Okay. Any short-term rental?
We had quite a few.
Okay.
And that's where that's one of my favorite stories to talk about is my short-term
I was hoping
rentals.
you would say that.
Short-term rentals experiences
You
in
don't
places
say.
that I wasn't supposed to be in, with people I shouldn't have been doing it with, and with tenants I probably
it's
shouldn't
pretty
have had.
typical story.
But I was doing this, you know, I give a lot of people credit. You have to try, and you have to, like, the price of experience is the
Valuable,
experience, you know? And so I've had Airbnbs in the West End. I've had them on the south side near the airport. I've had them in Decatur.
Oh, wow.
And again,
Were they yours, or you managed them, or like what was the situation?
Well, look, we don't want to get necessarily too much into all the things that we do, but I started a syndication where I got a group of investors together and showed them some numbers on some short-term rental, some long-term rental, and they trusted that was going to be a pretty good avenue to get a good return. The short-term rental came out of learning from some people that there might be some more money to be made instead of long-term. And we pivoted into that, and that worked pretty well. We worked with some of those in rental arbitrage, which, if I could do that all over again, if you find the right person in rental arbitrage, they are worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
If you
Less
find
risk.
the wrong person in rental arbitrage, they will ruin your property. And so you have to get to know those people.
Yeah.
And there's a good bit of trust that goes into an Airbnb that I think is different than a long-term rental. And so, you know, at one time we've had as many as 40 long-term rentals and 5 Airbnbs. The 40 long-term rentals take a quarter of the time that the Airbnbs.
Yeah, I'm sure. What was the most, like, did it ever flip where you had more short-term rentals than long-term?
It went pretty quickly from, so our best short-term rental was down in Decatur. And again, if anyone fact checks me at the time, this is what I believed and was told. Airbnbs down there are not kosher, not allowed. And city of Decatur, historic city of Decatur, no go.
Didn't know that.
But
that makes sense. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone having one
NIMBYs
there.
that live in that in Decatur, all right, the people who do not want any type of short-term rental or anyone coming into town or a bachelorette party or whatever it is, those people will get you as soon as they see, you know, a couple of different cars or Ubers or whatever it might be, and that'll kill you, because whether they take it up with the city or they decide to hop onto Airbnb and call Airbnb and tell them you're operating an illegal short-term rental.
Does Airbnb care? I feel like
They used to care. It seemed like they really did used to care.
And I
Really?
also feel like they're not checking themselves, but they have to deal with like complaints.
yeah.
And then they had their CEO came out. It's got to be in 2022 at this point.
Brian something.
And said we are going to we are going to double check every single listing in Airbnb by the end of the year. We are going to send someone and confirm that it is a legitimate listing. I don't know if it happened.
Right.
I doubt it. I don't know if it
I'm
happened.
sure that did not happen.
But that was a response to how many issues had been going on, specifically in New York City.
Yeah, well, I've read a little bit about, a lot of the litigation that like came out of that and stuff
Really?
like that. Yeah. It's kind of, they've stopped
But
it,
like the
basically.
onus isn't on Airbnb to enforce like local regulations and stuff like that necessarily. But they wouldn't necessarily have to send somebody to each Airbnb, but they could easily say like, okay, in this town it's allowed, in this one it's not, and just not allow them to be listed there.
You got to pick a spot in the map. They can
Right.
that's easy. They have all that information.
This one, this story for me happened more recently. It happened the last couple months. I'm really big into buying assets that are undermanaged, underutilized. Some people call them fix and flips, however you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I like to fix them and rent them out sometimes not so much. I have found that clients, because I am a realtor, clients have found different properties that they want to take their shot at it.
Oh.
Yeah.
They want to do it themselves, but they want me to help them buy it and get the contractor over there and fix it up. So we had this house down in Southwest Atlanta that was showing fine to sell it, right? But all of a sudden, one weekend, I'm getting all these calls that say like, "Hey, did you notify the tenant that we were coming to show the property?" And I said, "There's no tenant; it's a vacant property."
Oh, I see where this is going.
And so, my contractor kind enough to go over there, and she confronted the tenant that was in there that had rented it on a short-term rental platform via Facebook Marketplace.
I didn't even know they had that.
I didn't know that was a thing
realtor
either.
came into the property. That's not fair. I can't say realtor because that's a different term. Someone who had a Supra box, which is those magnet box that you click,
the
open
lock
the
in
key,
it,
whatever. It's a $16 a month subscription. I don't know if you need to have an active realtor's license. I have no idea. But anyone can get in one that has that subscription.
Well, now a lot more people are going to be doing that. Thanks for spilling them.
Yeah, no, if you're a realtor,
Nobody watches this.
if you're a real estate agent, and you don't have a super box or super access, you're probably not doing a ton of work.
Yeah.
So they could get into any one of them.
Well, no, you can put it. So if you were to request going in or trying to turn it on, I can put parameters on it.
But
I
you
have
thinking it's
controls
just
on
a
it.
realtor showing a?
Yeah, well, they're showing at 3:00 on a Saturday kind of thing.
Right.
Now I can't tell you exactly which one it was, and backtracking through it, I think we found it, and we think we may have solved the problem, and to the point that when I see people losing their mind, like the video you had on before, where people are clearly melting down at a much larger proportion than they should over such an issue, right? Like the real estate agent that I found that had committed this situation, you should show some mercy in this. Like I understand that there are attorneys around and get this person and have them have their head, but like, could you imagine the level of desperation to sacrifice to?
So what did they do exactly?
They changed
What
the
was-
locks. They changed the locks. They furnished the joint.
What?
They had a lovely lady move in. A lot of people were harmed in this. This was not a
Yeah.
victimless situation. Like
The person that moved in.
That's
who
fucking
thought-
wild. We got to back it up a little bit. All right, so you send your guy over there. Or your
see, I don't.
So it
mean to
wasn't even
correct you,
renovated
but
yet?
My contractor's a female.
I'm sorry. You send your girl. Oh yeah.
Ooh, sexist much?
No, well, that's not fair because I get a lot of people who say the exact same thing, and the chip on my contractor's shoulder for
About that? I'm sure.
she's a killer.
The
She's
lady
the best.
contractor that did my where I live, the house. When my wife and her family bought it, killer as well. And you bet you hear contractor, you think man first.
I listen. A lot of my I have my own biases now in that.
I think
market that
you say stripper. I think man. I think lady. You have to specify male stripper. I'm like, oh, okay.
Great. The men get to be contractors. The women are strippers. But-
I got to tell you, I listen.
I think the same thing about OF girls. Or I shouldn't have said the word girls, but OF people.
We lost a lot of real estate agents in that market.
Oh, really? I would see a lot of overlap between the real estate and the OnlyFans.
You got to make money. I appreciate entrepreneurs.
Right.
That's how it goes,
Hustle
but-
is hustle. All right, so y'all bought a house to renovate. So it wasn't even renovated yet.
I will say, when you are someone's realtor, right? Like if one day I get lucky enough that you're buying an investment property, right? And you say, I like all of the things that come with an investment property, but I'm not sure how to execute or if it's going to give me the return I want.
Yeah.
you'd want to go to somebody who does that, right?
Right,
If I needed legal advice, you might want to go to a lawyer.
Right.
You could go to your aunt. You could go to someone who's a good friend of yours, but not a lawyer.
The internet.
And so when it comes to investment properties, like being able to underwrite the returns on it. In this case, this client out of state, doesn't necessarily know Atlanta.
Okay.
Pretty ambitious, thought that it was going to be how could you lose on this opportunity? And that was his more of a lesson that he learned. I think he might have broken even,
Okay.
thankfully. But this house, not just being an Airbnb, as I shared this story, had things that went on that, you couldn't imagine when you were trying to sell a property. Like our neighbor at the property, imagine what Santa Claus looks like when he's like 6 months into his vacation. Like imagine the beard, the hair, the belly, like all of it. And he is living in Southwest Atlanta, right? With his pit bull and his German Shepherd in the front and the back. And he demands that because he's living his best life, he's going to feed his animals in the nude. And if not completely nude, maybe you get your tidy whities.
Oh
which,
my gosh.
like
Naked
the
Santa Claus
Breaking
is
Bad,
next door to this house.
and this is not, again, everyone, body positivity, I'm glad that he feels that he should do that. But did he have to do it during every showing? Did he have to go outside during 147 showings of this house
Oh my gosh.
and not be able to sell it for 6 months?
Wait, I was going to say 147
It
showings?
took forever. And every time we would get somewhere close, he would find some way to be just out there doing something.
Something crazy.
And then when it wasn't his fault, there had been a pretty violent crime committed down the road.
In Southwest Atlanta, what? Never.
Look, that's your assumption. Being a realtor, I would never make that assumption. It was a tragedy, and I'm sorry to hear it. And there was everything that you could imagine going wrong for a property went wrong for this one.
Yeah.
It closed. We sold it. For those who are like, I'm going to get my real estate license and make a lot of money quickly, what I have found is you work the hardest for the least amount of commission.
Same with us, dude.
And then all of a sudden it's like, if someone showed up, gave you a referral, I'm going to buy my first home or whatever you bought. And like, it was done in 30 days. You're like, that was a dream.
Yeah.
Those things, that's just how it goes. But this one was going to be, someone was renting it out somewhere.
So you guys never listed it as a short-term rental. Someone else did that.
The lady
we hadn't even
contractor.
furnished it. We didn't list it. We listed it. We were so certain it would sell quickly.
You listed it for sale. Someone
Yeah.
else listed it as a short-term rental.
Showed up. And now I'm definitely guilty for being out of town for the 6 or 7 days that it took for this to happen. Right?
So you're having to handle this all remote with
Guilty.
your,
all right?
your boots on the ground, girl.
But you don't think every 6 to 7 days someone's moving into your vacant property.
Someone listed it as a short-term rental. And then somebody rented it from the person that fake listed it. And
Another
then the
realtor.
person that rented it is who furnished it and stuff. So was it
Yeah.
like 2 scams happening at once?
No. It's the person who put it on Airbnb or whatever. They furnished it. So I'm curious about how that. So what did your girl say?
There wasn't a
that
squatter.
initial confrontation when she gets
I gotta say, my contractor she can convince you to do anything. She's incredible, and she convinced this person to leave. I'm sure somewhere in some.
So the person had no idea. They rented it as a short-term rental, and they're like, "What are you talking
and so
about?"
that's the thing, right? Is like when people talk about real estate investing and being involved in investing or being in Airbnbs, like when these bad things happen, there was a person who felt that, like that person who thought they had rented somewhere to stay, like she felt that, right?
She rented it short-term though. She didn't like sign like a 1-year lease.
She was there for 2 weeks while her house was something was being finished,
and so she gets interrupted halfway through it.
Yeah,
because the same thing happens, but with long-term, right? Like the same type of scam, but
Yes.
like with like
Now,
a whole.
But the city of Atlanta just solved a big part of the eviction problem, which was
Explain that to me.
So you can now, and look, I hope that I have this wrong, but this is how it was explained to me by the person who helped me with this situation. You used to have to get in line for your evictions, and the sheriff would show up to the door after however many months. And 60 days notice to vacate the property is how it goes on a lease, and you would then be able to expect that tenant has left. If they are not, you can file for the
dispossession.
eviction. And so the city of Atlanta has said there's just too much of that maybe going on, and we need to allow for private security to go handle this.
What?
And so you can pay for an off-duty officer to go ahead and help you with this eviction for a very reasonable price. And to think that you could just do that. Now, I assume there's more that goes into the paperwork. When we explored it the one time, it was a reaction to we thought we had squatters.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to convince, as guys walking into the property, most squatters are not necessarily malicious. And I think that there's some people who are truly suffering out there looking for shelter and looking for somewhere to stay out of the cold or the rain.
Yeah.
And you're scaring them to death when you go through the door of like, get out of my property.
Right.
So that's how that went, right? We walked into one.
The ones you see that are like, no, I'm not leaving are the minority.
Different. Right. Like I've walked into a property of ours in Brookhaven where there was a person experiencing homelessness, right? Who was sleeping it was January and was sleeping on the back porch of this triplex that, I don't think we had finished renovating it yet, but maybe one of the guys working there had a heat lamp. And so this person there, when I showed up, yeah, I was scared, but that person was 10 times more scared because you're not looking to harm you or rob you.
Not looking for trouble.
On the other hand, I have had properties with back doors kicked in and appliances taken, and I've caught someone on camera. My clients have called the police. Police said, what do you want me to do about it? Like, you want me to go track down your missing appliances? Like,
yes, I do want you to do that.
The answer is no, you're out X thousands of dollars for your missing appliances. So like those things that happen too. And, but you can't go at it thinking everyone's there to rob you or harm you or squat in your property. But I could just be being totally naive.
So she convinces her to leave, or no, the tenants to leave, and then whatever gender they were. I don't know if we caught that.
One tenant. Yes, it was one. It was one.
You said it was older
female,
lady.
Yeah, one older female. Yeah.
And then so all right. So then you do your investigation? Do you confront the realtor? Or?
Found the real estate agent and where they had used to be.
What is the difference, realtor, real estate agent?
Thank you for asking me, and thank you for letting me get my plug in.
Yeah. I felt like you wanted
when
to.
You're a realtor, when you are a realtor, you are a part of. I'm part of the National Board of Realtors. I'm a part of the Atlanta Association of Realtors. I have to uphold certain standards and do certain coursework and go through some certain classes to learn and continuing learning how to be a steward of people's real estate and my own as well. I got my license because I was buying properties and watching other realtors and other agents, get their commission that way. And then because I know how a house works and how it's built and how the different air conditioning units, stuff like that, I'm pretty useful when you're going to buy your first home. Or when you're going to list your house and you need different people to do stuff that you've been living in the house 25 years and you didn't want to do it. Yeah, I'm pretty helpful when it comes to that stuff.
Okay.
Some real estate agents may or may not know or flip houses or buy that stuff. They may just be more of the help you.
So the agent's the weak one.
Yeah.
One that doesn't,
I mean, I deduced that much, but
I knew you were the stronger one. I just didn't know which is which.
I would tell you that person would didn't have their license continuing on. They weren't doing deals. They were clearly in a sense of desperation. When I understood where that was coming from, I really had nothing to gain from that person, right? Like I don't have anything. I want an apology. Like,
So,
even the $150 locksmith that I need to get out there to change the locks again, like
$146.
Yeah. So what I did was I went to social media and I just blasted over the locksmith. But those things, I'm hearing those. That happened to me.
yeah.
And then I went to a training where another agent was expressing that some real estate agent was experiencing homelessness herself and was going to different vacant homes, knowing that no one would be in them, and would sleep there overnight.
Aw.
Right, and so it really just depends on how you look at owning property,
Right.
and how you believe in taking care of your belongings. But in this case, I looked at it as this was a pretty big misunderstanding. I felt bad for the furniture that they threw out wasn't expensive furniture, and the best part about it was 2 days later that furniture that was put on the corner. It was all gone.
Yeah.
So either someone came back and got it, right? Or it walked off, but whatever it was. But and right back on the market.
What a
Sold.
dumbass plan.
I mean, it worked for a minute. They made the money,
Well,
right?
I would imagine
You get your
'cause
money after 24 hours, right?
Well, you would get your money on your security deposit, right? If you're taking first month's rent.
But
So
she was like I think it was like a 2-week rental.
yeah, but you're gonna get something in
Yeah,
there.
so
up
you're
front.
getting like 2 weeks. I'm just saying like it's a new listing.
I
You
think
all
it was
most
$700 worth of rental income.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was expecting a number in that range because your first listing, you always have to give don't you have to give a discount? Maybe you have to.
But that's the thing is that it wasn't on the platform.
Oh,
And
it's just
so
on Facebook Marketplace. Like, who wants to rent
a
this?
room.
I
short
didn't
So
even-
she could have cash apped that money up front.
100%.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it happened.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so
We thought there was some new short-term rental Facebook thing we didn't know.
no, but I could tell you if I was
That's a
buying,
good idea. Facebook should get into that.
If you're buying your next, if you're somebody who's thinking about buying short-term rentals, I would tell you to pivot into mid-term rentals.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And
like
go
like
hunting.
the
Nurses and
travel
shit?
nurses and stuff.
So that's like everyone's like big favorite one, but
Yeah.
but like GSA.gov. So like the government gives
Oh,
out,
dude, I wanna do
the
that.
per diem
Write that
of
down.
the daily part of it. Now, look, I listen, I read, I try as much as I can to understand, real estate investing and how buyers and sellers
Mm-hmm.
think and operate and those things. And so medium term rentals have become popular as we have different projects and people, and not just, I used to think like consultants or attorneys who might work and travel, but it's more of a blue collar community that is traveling for whether it's military or a lot of stuff in the South Atlanta.
Construction. My brother used to go
Industrious,
like
yeah.
3 months at a time to.
And so if you can get the contract on your property near these locations,
Yeah.
the per diem rate is way higher than your long-term
Dude,
rental.
I've thought about doing that with my basement because it's like it's got its own entrance. It's huge bedroom, bathroom, like big living room. It's like
The club?
Yeah.
the club. Yeah.
I don't know if they would give you the basement on there.
It's a nice basement.
But the other thing we experimented with was pad split and short
Pad split.
short.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of pad split.
Man, I'm giving them a free plug.
Right.
So people are buying houses right now, and in the living room, they are putting like small storage lockers in there, maybe 2 refrigerators, maybe 2 sinks, maybe, and each bedroom is treated as its own single rented room.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a bathroom in it, an ensuite, it'll be rented at a higher rate, and that ranges from $200 to maybe $350 a week. And now
There's got to be crackheadish clients though.
you
Who's renting that?
You nailed it for the majority of it.
Yeah.
But if you think outside the box a little bit and go to different areas where that might serve a purpose, I'll give you an example. Near college campuses where you have a lot of international students coming from overseas
Mm-hmm.
who might want to live with people who maybe they don't know them, but they might be from same community,
Mm-hmm.
might be from, just wanting to be around people they might be more familiar with.
Yeah.
Well, 8 guys or 8 individuals could rent this 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, once was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, has now been turned into a 6-bedroom, 3-bathroom house or whatever it might be. And they fill it. When I was in college, like fraternity houses worked that way where
Yeah.
they essentially had your pod and then a living room kind of thing. But
Yeah.
it is now becoming more and more popular. It's also becoming popular in the senior living community. Those who don't have their senior living care set up with maybe a little bit more cushion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys will be responsible for your parents when they're
Already
older and what
are.
your plans might be with them if you're blessed to still have them.
Yeah.
But not everyone has that, and they have to find somewhere to live with. We started this conversation with your tax bill.
Yeah.
Those people get the same tax bill in
Right.
the house they've been in for
For-
30, 40 years.
Exactly. That's what
Right?
pushes a lot of
It's time
older
to
people
go.
out.
And so that's where pad split does serve some, or rent by the room serves some purpose for some people. But you have to become creative when interest rates are high and rates are high, and you can't just buy stuff willy nilly. You have to become creative in how you're either going to increase your cash flow and your bookings, or sit on the sidelines and wait for
Yeah.
things to change. But
I've learned
Or
so much
just,
in this 30 minutes.
I wonder how. So the furniture probably costs at a minimum like $150. I mean, probably more. Like you had to spend.
You're
like,
so mad at this lady for her bad idea.
I just think it's ridiculous how stupid the crime is. It's mean spirited. I mean, I know they're
Yeah.
desperate, but like, yeah, that's just wild to me.
But that's where, like, when we're watching stuff like this, like, I feel like there's opportunities, in day to day to be like, I can either die on this hill of like, I want that money back, and that person took that, or
No, yeah, 100% don't think you should even
I
worth
put it in
your.
my notes folder in my phone, and I bring it up when people are like, oh, let's you want to talk about those types of things? This one happened recently, and this house has a laundry list. But yeah, we've had stuff in Airbnb complaints and
I was gonna say, pull out the notes. Let's
rental
hear some of
complaints.
this.
The 8-foot snake that the person found in the unit, that was a doozy because
What?
I don't particularly like snakes.
Wait, that was real, or was it like
Yeah, that
a
was
false
one in Decatur.
complaint to
That was
get?
the one in Decatur. Yeah, because it's.
Hey, what kind of snake?
I was told it was not venomous, and you shouldn't kill it. It's something that controls the rodent population.
Oh,
Relax,
feels
there, Steve
pretty
Irwin.
big.
Not everyone over here was all that comfortable just slinging snakes around, and that's not. Believe it or not, on the real estate exam, that's not a part of your qualifications. I don't
Why did it have
like
to be snakes?
Yeah, agreed. It could have been a lot of other things, and but like those kinds of experience where you're getting those calls, or we had a bathtub that someone overfilled that thank God no one was underneath it that went into the unit below.
Oh my gosh.
And this was a lot of those though happened within my first year, and I often think back on it of like, oh, could have just turned it off then. Could have just said not doing it, but. If coming from a sports background, you win and lose games all the time, right? It's continuing towards the long-term goal. And that's where real estate, I think, and sports, and for me, basketball really do kind of mesh. And I can use a lot of those philosophies and analogies and be able to find and connect with people who are into sports, right? And then but yeah, I do find a lot of those similarities for me of trying my best to give some grace when people need some. But when you're losing, if you lose a lot of money, it's hard to do that. It's harder to do that.
Right.
Yeah. But
Pretty smart guy for someone that went to UF.
I appreciate that. I really do enjoy, I have an older brother. He's my best friend. He went to Harvard and he went to Wharton. And I always joke that I don't give him credit for being that bright, but if you sit around older, smarter people who've done more stuff than you, and you try your best to listen and maybe model it, right? Like that's okay too.
Yeah.
You can really get some stuff done. So I really like listening to people who have done those before, people who've done rental arbitrage long before I got into it. And I mean, even the people who bought
the best way to learn anything. Just
10
talk to
years
people
ago.
that have already done it.
And
no
that's
need
one
to
of those
reinvent
things,
the
yes.
wheel.
As I still get to coach basketball now, and I still get to coach young kids.
Really?
Yes, I do run my own AAU program out of Dunwoody.
Oh, yeah?
Facility.
Oh, cool.
Dunwoody United Basketball. I'll give that plug. But that's my passion project that I really love. It's a program of 50 kids from 13 to 17 years old.
So you're still an athletic director.
I am yes, I am, and I do love coaching these kids. My wife enjoys it. I have an outlet where I'm out there, yelling and coordinating. Go to some practices while she watches, TV shows that I will never sit through, and I get to still do the coaching and scratch that itch.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, young people could use some advice every now and again.
For sure.
But yeah.
What shows are not on the? You just said no go, honey. Not watching. I'm gonna go.
So I'm gonna admit to the one that I have fallen into watching.
Okay.
I'll admit to this one, Below Deck.
Oh man, I've seen a lot of it. My wife makes me watch that. Yeah,
That
she
one
loves
to me,
that.
at first it was like, what is this? And now it's like, is Below Deck on?
Really?
Ones I don't particularly enjoy, Love Island, and
I just finished.
specifically Love Island USA,
Yeah.
where you're telling me other people around the world are watching. This is their impression
Of Americans. Yeah.
which for a lot of reasons is not a representation of America.
Isn't it?
Not
I
sure.
feel like.
Not sure. I'm not sure anyone on that show has ever had to learn what Ozempic was, or ever had to go and
Or maybe that's how they got that way. Who
maybe,
knows?
but I'm not betting on it, and
True, yeah.
and then watching them sometimes emotionally unravel, and you're like, oh, that's why you're that way.
Yeah.
Got it. But I don't watch that one. That one's not for me.
Yeah.
I watched Bridgerton a little bit, but didn't stick for me. But I don't know.
haven't seen it.
What shows do you?
I
you
watch all the trash, like everything
what
90 Day, Fiance, The Other Way, Happily Ever, all of those, like anything on
What's
TLC.
It's remarkable what a franchise that is.
I know.
only,
it has really
Yeah.
What's the draw?
blossomed. I mean,
Will you admit what the draw is?
yeah, I think it's maybe because like in my work life, I'm like, using all this brain power and like thinking hard thoughts. I like to just veg out to something that doesn't require thought, or I don't really have to follow a storyline. You know what I mean? It's just easier.
That's how my wife
Turn
is.
my brain
she's,
off.
She's in her 4th year of med school, and she wants to be an orthopedic surgeon. Very proud of her, but she loves trash TV in the background to study too. And I hate it, but I also get sucked in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like she can work, and I'm like trying to work, and all of a sudden I'm like, what did that bitch say?
Yeah.
Right, completely out. But I do think that it's important to understand what they're watching. I will say, when everyone was coming at men for like the Roman Empire thing,
What?
I think are you not aware of this? That men supposedly think of the Roman Empire, every one in X amount of. Our algorithms are different. Anyway, I think that.
What?
Help me out here. Did you not get that part of it? Did that never make its way to yours? That they say that men like to war history and.
I love that shit, but I didn't know I think about it once every 17 minutes.
It was one of those things that like all men think of these things, and I now have learned that like your version of that is trash TV.
Yeah.
Of like that's where some of the brightest women I know go to just turn off their brains.
Yeah. I don't want to be bright all day.
But I don't get it because I'm watching. I'm like, how this? Could you believe that they did this? And whatever.
Yeah.
She works in travel, but this is that one's a little bit more mind numbing. Yeah.
Man, so anything else you want to get off your chest from your short-term
Pull out
rental
the
days?
notes app, man. What's
this
the?
past January, I got a phone call from the Atlanta Police Department to ask.
He's like, I could go all day. Yes, there's plenty.
Yeah, to
What
ask for
happened?
access to one of our apartments that the unit downstairs had complained of.
Weed smoke.
No, potentially a dead body upstairs.
What?
But I do like to leave people hanging at the end of that so they
Yeah.
can give me their best guess. And
Okay.
pretty mundane. That's nothing. Weed
Right.
smoke. I can tell you where this place is.
The police
But
would
anyway,
even show up in Atlanta if you. I
well,
know this
because
from
of-
experience.
Because of the weather and because of the cold and because of where it was and the unfortunate nature of the resident who did not have anyone else, he'd been there a while.
Dead?
Yeah. And when they found him, the coroner comes and shows up and takes what's there. Right. But like,
I thought it wasn't going to be a real dead body.
Yeah.
That's a
It
bummer.
was actually just.
sorry,
Wait, was the dead body?
Did I bring the mood down?
Was the dead body in your unit, or they needed access to your? Oh wow,
Oh.
damn.
Really sad. Person didn't have
Had they
anyone
not
else.
been paying rent? You didn't.
I'm not. There is no amount of rent worth that.
Yeah.
However, that individual circumstances may have come up, and the rumors that we heard as to why, someone that may have happened to them or they did that, however it may have gone. There's
I
no
want these
preparing.
details. What do
there's
you
no
mean? What were the
preparing you- There's no
rumors?
preparing you for how you have to kind of respond to getting. You would think people would show up for the belongings, but if you have no one in this world, like,
Yeah,
and that's the apartment you own, right? No one's coming.
yeah.
So you do with that stuff what you have to
That's my
do.
biggest fear.
You have to get rid of whatever residue was left behind of a human.
Oh,
And I don't know if you've ever seen like John Wick.
how long are we talking? How long was the body there?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I can tell you that I was out of the country when I got the phone call. I thought it
Oh,
was a
convenient.
scam call.
Uh-huh.
Right? Yeah, that's actually a good point. That's a good point. I did return immediately.
Got an alibi. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I got to tell you, I mean, the response to us obviously saying whatever you need and here and whatnot.
Yeah.
There was no prioritizing finding who had done this or if this had been done to. No one.
Now, do you
seemed
know
to
if it was
care.
considered like?
So there was no they're like, it's dead.
Called everyone. People showed up. They saw. They were like, "It's been here. Could have been days. Could have. Do you have cameras? Yeah. Here's the camera. Here's the footage. Can't really tell. Can't really see this. Get footage from neighbors. Can't really see this. Like, may not find the person. Don't know. Not
Don't
sure
care.
if that that's a
Fucking police.
suspect. Not sure if that person actually was just walking around at the same time.
Wow.
And so,
So
that
but can't the coroner tell like how this person died?
yeah. So I don't think it's like CSI.
I thought it was. I mean,
So
at
did
least
I.
the coroner and cause of death situation. Like,
And believe it or not,
Yeah.
I don't think people die one at a time in Atlanta. And so I think that the coroner and the other people are also busy with other stuff.
that they actually know are crimes.
Because I thought like, well, yeah, like tell me, how do we,
Yeah.
of course, like
Time of
we-
death.
what-
Yeah.
What happened? How do we help? Where do we find, they're like, maybe it was in January, like maybe by March.
No.
Yeah.
They cared as much about the dead bodies as they did your stolen appliances.
I was two
Yeah,
different parts of Atlanta. But yeah, that's
Man, I thought that the dead body would
Like,
get
what do
them
you
to-
want us to do? Solve a murder?
Exactly. Earlier, it's like, all right, just
I don't know. I'm not sure. I really
Right.
didn't know what I expected them to do. I was more in shock of like I know I didn't do this. Like this is
Yeah.
not something that I had.
I would be immediately worried they thought it was me. I would just start explaining myself and providing alibis, like without anyone asking.
Unfortunately, sometimes.
Damn it! I have a knife missing from my knife block. They're gonna think it was me.
Oh goodness. And sometimes you learn just kind of like what other people's expectations or people who work, police officers included, how desensitizing it can be. And I wouldn't want to be that desensitized, and I wouldn't want to have to deal.
I don't want them being
regularly.
that desensitized.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different thing. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that's for this podcast. But, yeah,
take a true crime turn.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely we weren't pleased or impressed by
The
what
reaction.
and getting the units online and making sure that they were
Do you have to disclose that someone died there?
in Georgia. Technically, no. We would
Did we have this
disclose.
debate before? I had this
debate.
debate with somebody.
If you asked me, now you said disclose,
Yeah.
right? So you're not saying, did I ask you, did someone die in this unit, right? You're an
Right.
attorney.
If nobody
Right?
asked, yeah.
So and as I've been coached, because they will tell you that, like anything else, when you get into this business, you don't want to underpay your two best professionals, which are your attorney and your accountant, and make sure that you listen to them and don't
Right.
don't discount that. Those are-
See, we had this debate about whether or not like agents or realtors have to disclose.
We went to an Airbnb. One of our guests has an Airbnb in town, and then he told us it was haunted. And then he told all these stories, and the guy who bought it beforehand had died. He knew about it in the
He
purchase.
killed himself. in
Killed
that.
himself, yes. And then we went and stayed there with a Ouija board, try to talk to him.
Yeah. He didn't talk back.
No.
But
But I think it's because, well, according to this guy who's into the spooky stuff, we brought dogs. So I brought my dog, and then I think you brought little baby,
Baby
Janet too. So the dogs scare off the ghosts.
But what I was saying is like the rule of like, oh, you have to disclose. How would you know? Unless you just know. There's not like a database of where people died or something for you to check if someone died at this property. So I don't think a real estate agent or realtor could necessarily have to disclose it because you don't have a way of knowing that
Again,
unless you just know.
if I ever find that out of a property, I have always told my clients, you should be open and honest about these things.
Mhm.
Most times, to be fair, right? Like, if you're buying a deceased person's home, your grandparents' home, who maybe she or he passed away in there, there's a good chance that home is going to need to be emptied, gutted, if not knocked down and rebuilt anyway.
Just because somebody, just because it's
No,
old,
just
you mean.
because of what you would say the odds would be.
Yeah,
Right.
the disrepair from being old and not being able to handle that.
Yeah,
shit.
and so that's pretty common, right?
Mhm.
There are a lot of those when you drive in different neighborhoods where you see like big beautiful home shack,
Yeah.
right? And like, so disclosing it, you might ask if you're buying this investment property. You may not ask, and you may say, "We're just gonna leave that." But if
But
I
I
know
say even
it,
if you asked, how would the realtor know? Unless they just happen to have knowledge of like the last person that died there. There's no way for them to like investigate that or like check that.
the level of trust you need to have with your client too,
Mm-hmm.
because like I'm representing their best interests.
Right.
I get lied to every day. I know
Mhm.
that. All right. I accept that fact.
There's always another offer.
Right. And so it's just a matter of sometimes you find yourself defending people and clients because that is your job,
Mm-hmm.
that you then come to find out like, damn, you got played.
Yeah.
And that's happened too.
Mhm.
And those days are not great. Those clients, you don't pick up those phone calls again. And you learn that lesson.
Yeah.
There's a grief to dollar ratio in every industry, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And sometimes, yeah.
Lying
it's
clients never experienced that before.
Clients,
Right.
yeah,
you know you are.
absolutely. So
We like
Cool.
I don't have, in terms of that stuff, in terms of what I could share, being a part of the rental community, it takes a lot of patience. It's a long-term rental story. This is a
okay.
complaint from, we own a few duplexes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think you need to disclose this, but this was just a fun fact. Out in Lilburn, we got a complaint that we heard like a lot of noise and something going on next door. And then all of a sudden, there's a baby crying nonstop. And it come to find out that they had a live birth in the unit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Units on septic too. So like, and it's one bathtub, 1.5 bath. So like, to me, I'm thinking to myself like, how did this happen? Now, not a
Like
single
on
plumbing complaint.
purpose?
We can get I don't know. Some people have different beliefs. Some people believe in giving birth to different places.
So is that like talking about like in the tub and under the water thing?
Yeah. Look, I'm not a doctor. So I just, all we heard it was from the tenant next door of like, I'm convinced, for sure because people showed up and all these other things. There wasn't a baby there before. She was pregnant. She's not pregnant now. She go to the and so like, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Rent be on time. Terrific. So that was really,
That's interesting.
that was,
Not illegal or anything, though, I don't think. is it?
and not a disclosable event, but
Yeah.
like those are, you could be sitting having dinner.
No one
somewhere
died here,
and
but
be
we
doing
did have
something.
a new life brought
Right,
into
the
world.
opposite.
Yeah, it's plus minus. But they don't call you for these issues ever at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
They never call you. Like I wish it would happen like
Well, let me guess, you're out of town.
at a wedding, right? You're doing something that like maybe you're out having a good time, right? And that comes up and you're like, I'm in no state of mind to handle this at all.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a part of investing. So
Hilarious.
Awesome.
Well, I know you got to protect the innocent on some of these. We'll allow it.
Thanks for sharing. Those were awesome stories. I feel like I've learned a lot. Like,
Sure.
I need to watch this back, take some notes. You're saying I can't get the government to pay for me renting my basement. Was that the conclusion?
I don't think the government's
We
gonna.
had
I don't think the
reached-
government's gonna help you. But I think that you, in the short amount of time we've known each other, I would assume that if you wanted that bad enough, you will
I make it
figure
happen.
Yeah, you'll
All
figure
right,
it out.
cool.
And so
That
I
kind of
think
is close to. So what we do here is we have
Oh,
a
yeah.
guest book that you have to sign. We should have warned you earlier.
Oh,
so
yeah.
now we're putting you on the spot, but that's also Trey's fault. He didn't tell you either.
Yeah.
Guest
And so what a
It's
phrase.
a hypothetical guest book.
Yeah. So it's like catchy. It could be something from the episode. Something like just something you're gonna leave
Give
us
us a
with.
takeaway. Yeah. What are you signing
it's
the
gonna
book
it's
with?
gonna appear on the screen. I think I'm not the editor though. I don't know.
man. In regards to what we just talked about, or in a philosophy.
It can
Either one.
You got a lot of leeway with this one.
Well, for me, I honestly believe that success is a team sport, and the amount of help you give others starting in any new industry gets repaid to you tenfold. But that is you having to have some faith. And this is way too long of a tagline. But yes, success is a team sport.
Success is a team sport.
And
will
be
the
willing to help.
tagline.
And I wouldn't say forgive or give grace that we were talking about some of the other stuff here, because that's not for everyone in every circumstance. But all too often people gatekeep some of the. You said you learned a lot, right?
Definitely.
Me as a realtor, for me, right, one day, I don't know if we ever cross paths again where real estate comes into play, but my hope is that you might hear someone talk about that in the future and say, had a guy on my podcast who talked for way too long and he works in real estate here in Atlanta. I would call him. He seemed to have a clue.
Yeah.
And that's my goal, because if I helped you learn something that might help you down the road, great. I don't make anything off of it,
Awesome.
right? But maybe I've earned a little bit of trust and respect from those who you come across. So
100% agree. Yeah.
Loved it. I was he understood the assignment. That was great.
Yeah.
Got another question for you.
didn't know there was an assignment. Go ahead.
Well,
The guest
all
book
right, coach.
Yeah.
All right. MJ or LeBron?
Ooh.
You know what? LeBron.
That's what I think. But
Have y'all seen the new commercial with Lil Wayne and LeBron? I freaking love it. It's like a Beats commercial and it's hilarious.
It's such a big question, right? The MJ LeBron thing. It's such a big question, and it has so many different ways to answer it.
Yeah.
But I'm 33 years old, so in my lifetime I have a little bit of Michael Jordan memory, a little bit, but I can't think of
LeBron
anyone
memory.
who has carried themselves so well for so long, and has been dominant for so long, and then not to mention. And I don't know if this is true, seems to be a pretty great dad and family guy.
Yeah, I hope
and
he doesn't like
philanthropist.
diddy us one day and like
Right.
come out as a
Yes,
piece of
like,
shit.
And
LeBron.
that's what that's my biggest fear, because at least Jordan was openly an asshole.
Yeah.
And he was
A
open
degenerate.
about, I'm an asshole. But
Right.
because the line most famous, right? Like Republicans buy sneakers too, kind
Yeah.
of thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
he got it. But LeBron, I just, that's who I'm picking.
Okay.
And then, but if I had to draft first, this is my hot take.
Okay.
Tim Duncan is the best winner and the best kind of player of my generation.
Yeah.
So much so that I named my dog after him. So my dog Duncan and I.
Cute.
Yeah, Tim Duncan. That's my.
What kind of doggy is Duncan?
So Duncan was a Facebook post answered by my wife, a black Labradoodle that shed, and that was
What?
going to be a little bit bigger than the person who had ordered him wanted. And so it was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, June 1st. I had to get in the car and drive up and get him. He was already named Duncan at 10 weeks old.
Really?
And so to me, I
sign
thought that was
for the basketball gods.
That's right. That's
It's a
exactly how I
sign,
looked
yeah.
at it. So we went, we got him. And then the best part is, similar in my family, I'm about 6'5" myself. My brother's maybe 6 feet tall.
That's got to be fun for you, little brother.
Yeah,
As a
it's
little
kinda
brother.
tough.
As
Yeah.
long as he's still
My little
six,
brother's a
right?
half-inch taller than me, and that's his biggest accomplishment in
Yeah.
life, according to him.
Well, I always joke, the moment I got bigger than my older brother, we all of a sudden became a team, right? And now we weren't fighting each other. But yeah, so Duncan grew from what was going to be a 60-pound dog. Duncan's 110 pounds.
Hey.
wow.
And on his hind legs is like, all of 5'5" kind of thing. He's
Taller than me.
tall, and but we fit. We look well. We bumble around our community as the big dog, big human walking. That's what we do.
It's like me and my little dog. My dog is 2.5 pounds.
Oh, well, that's great.
And I'm 5 foot, half an inch.
Those ones are a little bossier though than the kind of
She's
my dog.
such a bitch. Oh my God.
But I do think that dogs are great.
Oh yeah, I'm a medium guy. I got a medium dog. Just medium baby. But
Well, not everyone. To watch how people receive a really big dog is funny because sometimes it's how people will receive me when
Yeah.
they're not. And they're like, "Oh my God, look at this thing!" And it's just like,
okay, mountain.
yeah, exactly.
I think
That's
it's hilarious when people your size are terrified of my 2.5 pound dog. And
No.
it happens relatively often.
No,
Like
2.5
those people that are scared of dogs, it doesn't matter that she's 2.5 pounds. They are still scared of dogs.
8-foot snake. No thanks. No thanks. 2-pound dog. No problem. Absolutely no problem.
man.
Growing up in Florida, you have to be used to having some
yeah.
really strange things come into your house.
Oh, yeah.
That's where you
know.
can hunt pythons.
Well, yeah, but worse,
And
like
you're
if you want a
encouraged
free
to.
pet, iguanas are
Yeah.
now taking over the show down there.
Oh,
and if
really?
you want yourself like a iguana the size of this chair, you can get one. You go out and just go find
Snag
one.
them.
Yeah, no problem. And when it gets
Lock
too
them up
cold,
in a glass box.
when it
Street
gets too
iguanas are mean.
cold, one of the funnier videos you'll find is, iguanas freeze and fall out of trees and then they
Yeah.
thaw out and they're alive.
What?
It's
Yeah.
a thing.
That
And
sounds
so-
And
vaguely
people take
familiar,
them in
actually.
thinking they're saving them,
Yeah.
and then they wake up and they're all pissed off.
Yeah, and they're like, "Where am I?" And tail whipping and all the other stuff. But yeah,
Oh my gosh.
that's a part of Miami too. You
That's
follow
pretty
the
cool.
Constrictors, but whatever. That's. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Appreciate
yeah,
it.
Please.
appreciate it. Do you have any
absolutely.
socials or anything
Oh,
you
yeah,
want to
plug
shout
it.
out?
Yeah.
Or the AAU thing?
Dunwoody United Basketball is my AAU. I work at my license sits at Engel and Volkers, Atlanta, which is here in Midtown.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, which is in Midtown. And you can find me on Instagram or Facebook, Zak Elf21, ZAKELF 21 for Instagram. Facebook, I still go by my name, Zak Elfenbein. I'm not hiding from anyone.
right.
You can come find me. And yeah, other than that, I would love to be able to stay in touch. And
sure.
I'm sure that as I have more rentals, I have more nightmares. So.
Yeah, one.
Definitely.
Yeah, one of these. Yeah, we'll save that for the next time. Awesome. Well, thanks for. That's been another episode of Once Upon a Bnb. I'm Ian.
This is Maha.
And I'm Zach.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.